Call the meeting to order. This City Council agenda briefing. I am going to do the roll call at this time. Mayor Pro Tem, are you here? Here. Councilmember Ravenbark, are you here? Councilmember Spears, are you here? Councilmember Spears?
I'm here.
Okay. Councilmember Waddell? Councilmember Waddell, I know his wife is about to give birth to their child, so I'm going to put him as absent. Councilmember Andrews?
Here.
Councilmember Joyner? And the chair's here. We all have a quorum, and we will get started at this time. I have several presentations tomorrow night. Consent agenda, C1 is approval of the minutes. C2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a 3-year contract for rollout refuse and recycling containers with Schaefer Systems International Incorporated of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
We have some changes to C2 that have been provided to you in written form, as well as reflected in Legistar related to that item. Basically regarding the pricing provided originally, the pricing is actually going to probably be lower, but it's reflected in that amendment in the second paragraph under background.
Okay, very good. Anybody has any questions of that? Okay, thank you. C3 is a resolution to participate.
Mr. Mayor, I did have, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry, sorry.
Is it this one?
The single page, yes, ma'am.
It says C4.
Sorry about that. It is actually C2.
It's C2.
It's actually C2. Okay, thank you.
C3 is a resolution to participate in the Charging Smart program. C4 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of 3 backhoes from Gregory Pool Equipment Company for $502,367. C5 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of 3 landscape trucks and 4 dump trucks from Velocity Truck Carriers, LLC for $703,667. C6 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of 1 street sweeper from AMAC Equipment Company, Incorporated for $353,188. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to ask, is that a replacement unit or are we adding a unit?
Good morning. It's just a scheduled replacement.
Okay, what do we do? Is the other one wore out, just hadn't been working for a while?
High hours, high maintenance. It's time for it to get retired.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
C7 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the state of North Carolina to provide regional hazardous materials emergency response team services. Public hearings, PH1 is an ordinance directing the housing inspector to vacate, close, and repair or demolish a dwelling at 613 South 14th Street as unfit for human habitation pursuant to Article 5, Chapter 16 of the City Code, and directing that a notice be placed thereon prohibiting its use or occupancy. This was continued from our April 15th, 2025 meeting. PH2 is an ordinance amending the official zoning maps of the city of Wilmington to rezone property containing 2.111 acres located at 710 North Kerr Avenue from R10 medium density single dwelling district to MD17 CD high density multi-dwelling residential district, the conditional district for 48 unit senior housing development.
Bill?
Yes, sir. Yeah, PH1. Yes, sir.
I just, Brian, okay, may I speak to you for a second? I didn't want you to waste a trip all the way over here for nothing.
I appreciate it.
Can you give us some ideas to what to expect tomorrow night?
Yeah, so I know the roof of the house has been done. I have not been able to get back in the house yet, but I plan on doing that either today or tomorrow with the tenant. Our social work partners have been in contact with him and his daughter. They've provided them with referrals to senior living and other developments around that for him to move to. So we're just waiting to see what the extent of the repairs are right now.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Next item of business is our ordinances. Ordinance amending various projects and grant funds for adjustment and corrections from budget to actual funding and expenditures. And then O2 is an ordinance making supplemental appropriations in the amount of $2,513,506 in American Rescue Plan funds to address homelessness assistance and supportive services. And then resolutions, R1 is a resolution authorizing the displacement of private solid waste collection services in the Pond Crossing subdivision.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
this
sir.
one will require a public hearing as well.
Excuse me?
This item will require a public hearing.
Very good. And then R2 is a resolution rejecting all bids for the Hooker Road MUP, Hinton Avenue MUP, and Wrightsville Avenue and Greenville Avenue's intersection improvement project. R3 is a resolution authorizing city manager to enter into an agreement with Wellick Asset Management LLC for gap financing for a new multifamily project utilizing $98,000 from the City Home Investment Partnership Program. And then R4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a revised funding agreement with the Wilmington Housing Authority in the amount of $660,000. And then R5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to approve variations to day and time restrictions for alcohol use at the Skyline Center. And that concludes, okay, Ms. Andrews?
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to ask Chad, you said R1 requires a public hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
So how are we going to proceed with this?
I believe it's, and Dave can maybe answer, I believe it's already been advertised, it's just not in the correct place.
It's not in the correct place, and
And so we'll move it up to the public hearing area, but it does require a public hearing, and all the proper notices have been sent out to the current haulers who are going to be displaced, and so they're all aware of it as well. So the notices have been sent out, it's just not in the right place on the agenda.
and have the folks in that area been notified as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. I guess this concludes this agenda. Are there any further items?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. We have two presentations this morning for you. First up is Mr. Travis Henley, who's the Comprehensive Planning Manager. He's going to provide you with an update on the Greater Downtown Plan.
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, good morning, and thank you for your time. We've been really looking forward to getting back in front of you for a while and providing this update. And this is just an update. We're hoping to schedule a more thorough deep dive with you in the near future. So just as a reminder, Greater Downtown is composed of 18 individual neighborhoods, and the boundary is analogous to the city limits as they existed in 1945. The Greater Downtown Plan is designed to replace 3 previous plans: the North Side Plan from 2003, Vision 2020, which was last updated in 2004, and the South Side Plan, which was adopted in 2009. Public engagement has been kind of the #1 priority for this entire planning project. Phase 1 started in April with Azalea Festival, included 17 pop-up events, 11 focus groups, 2 open houses, a number of interviews, and an online survey as well. Throughout all of those methods, we heard from approximately 2,800 residents about what they wanted to see in the future of the Greater Downtown area. Our focus throughout this project has been more so on meeting people where they are, going to existing events that are happening throughout the Greater Downtown community, as opposed to creating our own events and asking them to take time out of their day to come to us specifically. So you'll see less open houses, but far more pop-up events, and we feel that that method has been successful. From this engagement effort, 4 overarching themes emerged: local character, economy, small business, and mobility. And some preliminary strategies came through from the public input as well. And so phase 2 of our engagement was ensuring that we heard the community correctly. Did we get it right? And then asking folks to help us prioritize those methods. So again, 22 additional pop-up events in phase 2, another open house, and an online survey as well. Approximately 2,400 participants during this round. And it's led to a prioritization and a refinement of the strategies that I will show you right now. So first of all, in local character, really what we heard from the community is a desire for safe and pleasant public spaces, the things that we build to be in harmony with the historic scale and character that already exists throughout Greater Downtown, creating complete neighborhoods where residents can meet their daily needs, and creating more green spaces and planting more trees. So Just as one particular example, we've had success with the UMX zoning district since it was originally implemented, and there's opportunities to deploy that zoning district in more areas. For example, near the Delgado Gateway, at 16th and 17th in Dawson and Wooster. Under economy, improving access to high-quality affordable housing was pretty much an overwhelming favorite for the community. Also increasing the number of people who both live and work inside the greater downtown boundary, and using publicly owned properties to advance community goals. We talk about missing middle housing as a real opportunity for increasing the affordable housing stock of our community. We talk a lot about it, and greater downtown, because of the grid and because of existing zoning, it really is kind of the best spot for missing middle to be deployed in a way that is still respectful of the community. On the small business side, investing in the physical environment within retail areas, think wider sidewalks, street trees, things like that, improving support for existing businesses and attracting and to help establish new businesses, and adjusting the regulatory framework to increase business friendliness. Are there changes we can make to the city code or the land development code that would increase the ability for businesses to be flexible and creative while still being good neighbors and things of that nature? Finally, under mobility, safety and accessibility was a huge priority. Improving the bicycle and pedestrian network, both along city streets and through projects like the Downtown Trail, and expanding multimodal travel options and awareness to help people get around greater downtown. We heard a lot of interest in being able to park once and then being able to move through not just the central business district, but out to the cargo district or soda pop district without having to get back in their vehicles. Also, things like the curb extension projects that we've already seen and that you'll continue to see as we move into the future, a desire for those as well, just as an example. So our sort of vision, and of course this is at your willingness, of course, but would be to schedule another council and planning commission joint session where we can, as efficiently as possible, but also as thoroughly as possible, move through the individual recommendations with you. Make sure that you understand all of them and can get your feedback on all of them. Following that and any edits that come from those sessions, we take it back out into the community again for a phase 3 of public engagement. And then we would start the formal approval and adoption process. As far as implementation goes, we've actually sort of already started, because a lot of what we heard from the community is that the things we're already doing are actually helping. One thing that we could improve on is telling the story of what we're doing and making sure that folks are understanding the things that are happening. So I do also want to say that we are also in the initial preparations for updating the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan as well. If you can believe it, it's been over 9 years since that plan was adopted. So in the background, we're also working on getting that project stood up, and that will be the next project that we take on. So I know that was quick. I'm more than happy to answer any questions now, or if there's any questions between now and when we can hopefully have a joint session established, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Can we go back for a moment to,
Yes, sir.
to the focus groups? What focus groups? Who are these groups that?
So we had, let's see, we had a number of focus groups around mobility, North Carolina DOT, the Wilmington Metropolitan Planning Organization. We had small businesses. We had environmental groups. We had a number of others as well.
So in those focus groups, the comment that came out about the mobility, about parking once and being able to get around, was the theme?
Yeah, that was a theme through the focus groups, but we also heard that from the public as well.
So when you identify something of this nature, as well as the access to affordable housing, where do you dive into? Where do you start the planning process? Because you've got the Wilmington Transit, group that pretty much we help support and fund, as well as the county. How far do y'all dive and talk about planning for that kind of a mobility plan? Is it just saying we want a mobility plan, but who comes up with the plan? Do we come up with the plan, or does the Transit Authority come up with the plan? Who comes up with the plan?
If we were speaking on transit specifically, then of course that's WAVE's
Well, has there been any engagement with, since this has been identified as one of their high priorities, about engaging WAVE, about a mobility plan specifically for these areas to connect to? Because I see like the north side, when we did the social district there, we've got 1,100 car parking deck across the street from that. Those people should be parking over there instead of those neighborhoods. So is there a plan of action, or do we just talk about it?
During the planning process, we're making sure that we're engaged with organizations like WAVE, that the same thing has occurred across all of the different themes. Once we are sure that what we've come up with is what the community has said that it wants, we've gotten that right, we've understood that, we've taken it to council and council agrees with us, then we would start those actual action steps.
So we won't start the planning process on the mobility until we approve it. Is that right?
Essentially, yes.
Okay, but that's what the people want. So I would hope that y'all start engaging WAVE with some discussion about mobility, because we've been talking about this for 20 years, and we still don't have a mobility plan in regards to all these different areas. I'm not saying, I think it's great that the community wants this, the citizens are asking for it, but I think some sort of a discussion and planning process in regards to a plan of action should be implemented when you come back with something, because that's a question I'm going to be asking you folks is this is becoming high priority? Is it becoming, since this is a high priority for the community, for the citizens that you've engaged, I'd like to see what kind of a preliminary plan would look like in addressing this issue. The same thing with the accessibility to affordable housing, which, we talk about these things. Dylan, can you push to that? Improve access to high-quality affordable housing. I don't know what high-quality affordable housing means, but is there a definition of that, or just affordability?
As far as this case, affordable is what it means to the individual person.
Okay.
There's a number of different actions that would fall under improving access to high-quality affordable housing. So whether that's the services that Housing and Neighborhood Services already provides, looking at case studies that other communities have done, amending zoning regulations to allow for more missing middle housing, for example, or more density in some other areas.
ADRs.
Yes, absolutely.
So has the planning department calculated the amount of space available or units that could possibly be put on the ground from an ADR perspective? Because I see ADRs as the way to go with accessible, high-quality, affordable housing in downtown. I don't see us tearing down a bunch of historic properties and putting up high-rises for affordability. And I think the property on the north end is so expensive, it's going to be hard to do that. So ADR seems to be the way, but does anybody use GIS to determine how many units could possibly be built in downtown? Because I know developers that do this and have evaluated this on their own, and I'm just wondering, have we done that?
We don't have the specific number, but it could potentially be any residential property that exists within the greater downtown boundary.
I'd like to at least be able to, for you folks to share with us some approximate number that you folks think could be done. And just like as I've always asked, how much land availability is left in the city of Wilmington for affordable housing that people continue to tell us that we need? If we're talking about 10,000 units, I'd like to know where we're going to put them. I'd like to know what we're talking about with accessibility to affordable housing, because I think there's some specifics here that we need to drill down into. We got GIS, we've got all the capabilities to be able to determine that pretty quickly, and I would hope that you guys can come up with something that we could take a look at and say, well, we could put up maybe 600 or 1,000 units downtown if the private sector, people that own properties, were willing to do that. There's a strategy.
Yeah, and we could absolutely, we'll bring that data the next time you see this project.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes,
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got a question. I have several questions, and so I called Northside Plan, Southside Plan. What other plans were included in this greater downtown Wilmington team?
So, yes, we've got the Northside Plan from 2003, Vision 2020, which had a couple rounds of revision, but the most recent was adopted in 2004, and the Southside Plan, which was adopted in 2009.
Okay, and you started this process in April of last year?
Our public engagement started in April of 2024. The process of getting the plan started and getting the effort underway began before that.
And so you said you reached about 2,800 residents?
During phase one, yes, sir, 2,800.
Okay, well, my question is, how many and I'm just looking at it from a side of town perspective, the north side, the south side, uh, just those two, and you can incorporate whatever between those two. How many residents would you think that are in these communities?
Are you asking for how many residents live in each of those communities total?
Yes.
I know off the top of my head that there's around 6,500 that reside in greater downtown total. I don't have the exact numbers for each individual neighborhood.
Okay. So about 6,500, and you all were able to reach and engage 2,800
During phase one, yes, sir.
during phase one. So is there an additional phase or what?
Yes, so phase one was approximately 2,800, and then phase two was approximately 2,400.
Okay, cool. So I just want to make sure that we get a fair representation of these communities, and that we as the city, as an organization, don't move forward without hearing as many people as we can about plans for the future, because what I hear from my travels and my engagement and my interaction with people is a fear of losing their communities. And yes, I know we need affordable housing, we need more units, you know, we need to get with the times. But I can tell you that there's a real fear of people where their communities are changing. I mean, we're even changing the names of people's community, and they don't really like it. But I'm not sure that they're being engaged. I'm not sure that they're even willing to be contacted. You know what I'm saying? So I just really want to make sure that people are engaged, and if we're putting information out there, we make it accessible, and we're able to get some feedback, even if it's not person to person, that we're able to get feedback from as many residents about what takes place in their community as possible, instead of us deciding what takes place in a community, but from a small sample of people from the community. And I hope everybody understands what I'm saying.
Mr. Barnett?
Yeah, I wrote down what Mayor Sappho said. I guess my question is, how involved was Wavy or is Wavy with the downtown plan?
I mean, as part of those focus group conversations, they were involved, and the ongoing discussions that we have regularly through other avenues facilitated by the WMPO. In terms of, we really wanted to show these strategies to you all first before we moved any further.
Okay.
So in terms of more specific recommendations, that would come
Appreciate that.
later on in our process.
Okay. And those who participated in the focus group, were they the same, let's say basically 2,000? Or were they, did you take names and were they different? Like
Yeah,
I know
they
you
were.
had one was 22,000, 2,200, another one was 24. Are they the same people basically, or?
Not really, if I'm understanding your question correctly. What I will say is that the participants of those focus groups helped connect us to events and other folks in the community that got us out into the community.
Okay.
So
All right.
I hope that answers your
Yeah,
question.
okay. I just wanted to make sure that, as I think as Councilman Spears said, that we're reaching everybody, or as many people as we can.
And that's the reason you see so many pop-up events as opposed to open houses, so that we're not asking folks to come to a City of Wilmington sponsored event. To Councilman Spears' point, you know, some folks may not want to engage with the city, but if we are showing up to events where they're already going to be, you know, as they're walking down the line of vendors and things, and they see us there asking questions about the future of the community.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you.
Mr. Jordan?
Thank you for this information. What participation has the Planning Commission had so far? I'm looking at the what's next slide.
So they've received updates as well. Most of our, and I'm glad you brought this up because it reminds me of something I didn't say, which is that very much indebted to our steering committee and our implementation committee. They've been locked in with us every step of the way, and they've been providing great feedback. So the Planning Commission has been more on the outside. We've provided updates to them, kind of just like this one. But yeah.
Have any of the, this is just off the top of my head, have any of the Planning Commission members participated in the surveys and community outreach and gone to the tabling events?
Not, as far as participating directly in the tabling events, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
But
I think that would be interesting for you to provide that information to us and to them in the future. It might be useful to have one of the commissioner members there, a council member there, just to engage with folks in the community, talk to them a little about these processes. I don't want to volunteer anybody's time but my own, but I think that would be useful. And then this is a note for Chad and anybody who's going to be helping plan the I guess, returning candidate and new candidate orientation this year. I think having maybe a summary and a map of all of our different plans would be helpful, because as I think some of the slides today indicate, there are plans from 20 years ago that we don't even know are floating out there. Thank you.
And the other thing, and I guess I'm talking to Linda and the planning staff there, I know we're updating 3 specific plans into 1 specific plan, correct? I just want to make certain that we're implementing strategies that you can share with us when you come back with the final product in addressing all of the issues that the citizens are talking about. Affordability, accessibility to mobility, and all the stuff that goes with it, but specific action points as to maybe this could be picked up a lot by the private sector. This is something that we're going to have to engage more into. And I would hope that we, as an elected body here, can also prioritize, just like we did with the Vision 2020 plan years ago, the steps, because this is going to be multi-year processes that will involve multiple councils to invest in over time to make make it come to life. But I just want to make sure that we're implementing specific strategies and not just talking about it in flowery terms that we need mobility, but we don't have a specific plan with the specific cost that goes with it. In addition to the amount of properties that we're seeing now on a regular basis that we're having to demolish of affordable housing that people own, that we may need to get a hold of before it gets to the condition it comes to us with, so we can start talking to these folks in some way about air properties. A lot of these properties that we're seeing that are vanishing are air properties that had, unfortunately, are just being left in disrepair because of the way it has been left to family members that don't take care of it. One family member takes care of it. Is there a strategy to even talk about this and maybe engage the community and maybe engage elected leaders to help in the community talk about this real issue of losing this type of housing in these type of neighborhoods? Because we continue to see it every single day, and we're heartbroken up here that we have to make tough decisions for these folks that maybe could have been taken care of, years ago or months ago before it got to the condition of there's no roof or the house is literally falling apart. So I'd like to see some specific strategies when you come back to us with the final product. That's all I'm saying.
In the interest of time, given it was a briefing, we have all those actions already laid out. So you will see those. And
Very good.
Before we schedule any joint session, you'd have a draft well in advance of that.
Very good.
One more thing. Sorry, Linda. I'll cut you off.
Go ahead. Ken.
Can I get the notes? Can council get the notes and details from phase 1 and phase 2 of what feedback you got back and what kind of notices were given out to the people of the community?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Linda, do you want to say something?
I was just going to follow up. As Travis mentioned, this is really an overview for you with the idea that we really want to do a deep dive, and each strategy that you've seen this morning has a series of actions that goes with it. There is also a matrix that identifies here's what we think in terms of the overall investment that this will take, and this is very rough. So, think of it in terms of number of dollar signs, as well as the timing and the partners that we're going to be looking to help us implement those actions over the next several years.
Well, and I'm going to look at staff and Chad. I just think that this is such an in-depth plan for the city for the next 20 to 30 years. How you set this thing up from the get-go is going to be extremely important as to what the city looks like in the downtown area. And I think it's going to take, I would like to spend some time with our fellow council members that are policymakers here that engage the community on a more frequent basis to have more deep dive discussions about this and maybe have a workshop of some sort of an hour or two that we can really, you can get some feedback from us instead of you folks bringing us the plan, then all of a sudden we're reacting to something that we're just seeing or, just hearing about. Or, I mean, we've heard about it, but haven't really gotten it down into the weeds of it. And we might have some own opinions and thoughts on it also. Just a thought. Okay?
Great.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Chad?
Next up, we have Ms. Rachel Schuler, who's the Director of Housing and Neighborhood Services. She's going to provide you with an update regarding the Human Services Competitive Agency Grant.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. I'm here today with proposed updates to the Human Services Competitive Agency grant process. So this is our funding that we do every other year as part of the budget cycle for our nonprofit partners. And so with the adoption of the city strategic plan since the last cycle, we thought it was a good time to review this program and take some of the feedback that was provided in the last budget cycle. Over the past few cycles, we've had an increase in the number of requests as well as the amount, and it has exceeded what has been allocated for this program. Shown here in red you can see that the number of applications as well as the gap in what was requested versus what was allocated has continued to increase and has gotten very high. So we have not been able to award agencies the same funding that they have been used to in the past or what their requests are. So this is, again, a great time to just revisit this program. We do have just 4 proposed updates to share with you today. The first is the purpose statement. As you can see, it's very wordy currently. So looking to really refine that and align it with your strategic plan. Make it a little broader so that way if there are certain years you want to focus on certain focus areas, it's again that broader purpose statement. Just to provide grants to nonprofit agencies which provide direct services to assist the City of Wilmington in carrying out its adopted strategic plan. It's a tool in your toolbox. Probably the biggest change is, sorry, the slideshow is very delayed. There we go, is the proposed grant structure. So currently there is a minimum maximum grant of $10,000 to $50,000 per program with no organization receiving more than $75,000. This process, we fund programs, not necessarily the organizations. We see some collaborations, we see some folks that work together to do this, and that's why that's been set up. The new proposal would be split into 2 categories. One would be an impact model where 1/3 of the funding would be set aside for 1 or 2 transformational projects, really focusing in on one particular area with a large multi-year grant. The remaining funds could be allocated in the traditional way, but we would recommend setting an amount of $20,000 or $25,000, again, to just make that targeted request. We have seen so many organizations doing so many great things in our community, but we have not really been able to invest in one particular area, and so this would really help focus that energy. The large impact model could be used for multi-year funding similar to the capital project for the food bank. It really could be however you may decide to move forward with that particular funding. We're seeing the impact model in a lot of other places. The United Way has switched to that model in a lot of communities, and then as you know, the grant rainbow that the community endowment has put forward. They have a number of tiers that have the different impacts, whether it's that small community grant up to their social impact investing. So following in line with what we're seeing trends of some of these funding, again, getting into one larger impact model to make that bigger difference. We would not be recommending changing any of the population served for your reference. Here's the groups that we have been focused on. This is currently the council focus areas for this process. Again, just really shifting it to be more in line with the focus areas that are part of the strategic plan. If there's a particular area that council wants to focus on the first year, first cycle, we can absolutely do that with that impact model, but the rest of the award would be still within that focus area overall. We're also proposing a review process. I know that at the last grant cycle, there was some feedback that you all would like more information and to be more involved in the process, and so opening that up by inviting you to participate in the impact fund application in a more detailed process, providing additional information to you throughout the process, having some strategy staff to be able to help guide this, and really, again, giving that weight to your priorities. We know that you receive a lot of phone calls about a lot of different community issues that we are funding, but just not at a great rate, and so this
Rachel,
would really help.
question. We get a lot of calls from the organizations, but not the citizens, if you know what I mean? And I guess my question to you and to staff would be, has anybody ever evaluated how much total money is going into human services countywide, citywide? You have the state that goes through the county, you've got the endowment, you've got the city, you've got the county, you've got grants, and an assortment of other entities out there. I'd like to know what the total number, or if we could at least get close, or some kind of a range of the total number of dollars that are coming into the human services funds in this community. If you could calculate that. I know y'all talk to each other, and I know a lot of these folks go to the county, come to the city, go to the endowment, whatever. But I just want to see what that dollar looks like, possibly, if you could come up from my perspective. And then where is those dollars, what fields are they being pushed into? It give me a better understanding is, are we really spending the money in the direction that we need to, or should we be moving into another direction? Because I hear affordable housing is the thing that we continue to hear here. I'm just, do you have, maybe, could you get that number?
As best as we can. There's a lot of different studies and data that are out there, so we'll pull together what we can. And that's a great point. Several years ago, there was the youth violence prevention was the big topic.
Sure.
And we've seen a lot of investments in that field, and so I think the conversation has shifted to affordable housing recently, homeless, unsheltered, opioid, yes, and so really having that understanding, we can absolutely take a look at that.
Okay. I'd just like to have that, see what that number looks like, because I also want to have a more specific understanding of what money the state is giving the county in regards to human services. I mean, they have a building out here on 16th, 17th Street. I'd like to have a better understanding of that platform as to how is that being distributed. Maybe they can I'm sure they can give you that information, but I know they deal with a lot of different issues, and it seems like we're overlapping on some of those, that they're putting the money back out on the street from what the state's giving them, but we're also filling some of those gaps too. And I'd just like to know what that looks like, because it seems like we're spending a heck of a lot of money on human services in a very small county, and I'd just like to see where that money is maybe kind of filtering. Thank you.
To dovetail on what the mayor is saying, I'd like to have some kind of understanding of the accountability. What are the results? Because it's not mentioned in this, and like I agree with him. There's a lot of pockets of money coming in, and it's going back out. What is who are we holding anybody's? I don't want to use the word feet to the fire, but are we looking at their results and seeing the results?
Yes, we absolutely are. Shanti Johnson, our Community Development Analyst for Compliance, who's here today, she manages the process and the performance measures and all of the reimbursements, and we absolutely do take into account all of that with our awarding. Depending on how they perform, they may not be recommended for funding as much, so we are holding them accountable in that sense, but we can absolutely provide more information about the performance that our organizations are reaching, who they're reaching, how many people, where they're living, all of that information for you.
Not just for what we're spending money on, but I'd like to see that for everything. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Andrews, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I really appreciate that, you put this in here about updating the criteria to give weight to current council priorities, because we do hear, not just from the organizations, but also from the people in the community. And I have asked Tony, and I will, ask our next manager I think we need a retreat in January, before the budget process even starts, to do this exercise, to talk about what are our council priorities. And it would speak to, not just the other areas of the budget, but also to these competitive agency grants, both the human services and the economic development. And I also think, and I've done this in another organization, have a couple of council members be on a subcommittee when these grants are reviewed, because for the same reason that, we get them during the budget process, already, decided by staff, and, we can only react, and it would be better if we were there in the beginning too, I think, during the whole process, so.
Yes, sir, Dave.
Hey, I'm turning to the budget comparison page, and I was just curious if you could give us a little bit of the history of how that number grew from 626 to 720. And if I'm not mistaken, these are housing and urban development funds, correct?
These are general funds,
These are general
actually.
funds.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's based off a percentage of the overall budget, and that's where that growth comes in every year.
So it's
every
just
segment.
tied to a percentage change?
Yes.
Okay. I think just for important context, UNCW has a really excellent program where they're helping nonprofits in our community develop capacity, and I think that goes hand in hand with a lot of what the stated goals of the endowment are to really do that capacity building for these organizations. And so as we see that continue to be successful, I'm not surprised at all that applications are going up and the funding requests are going up. And so that's just something for us to be mindful of.
Yes, we have said one of the endowment has made folks better grant writers, absolutely, as well as Keno. And so I will note, though, that there is a percentage change, but then there may be some organizations that do request additional funds, and that gets granted sometimes through the cycle, so it may not work out perfectly for that percentage increase.
Okay, thank you.
To back up. So again, we just wanted to make sure that we're on the right track with this. If this is something that you want us to move forward, we will confirm your focus areas for the next grant cycle, which would kick off in the fall. We would want to start it a little bit earlier this year to incorporate some of these changes and develop our criteria and hold community workshops. This is a pretty big change, and so we want to make sure our partners are aware and are prepared for this. So, yes, sir.
Knowing that this is like a $10,000 to $50,000 grant, are any of the organizations coming to you and saying, we're struggling with the process, like filling it out? Because like a lot of these small organizations may not have, as you mentioned, a grant writer, or they may not have, do you see that, or?
Yes, and our staff works with organizations to help them through the process as much as possible. It is a competitive agency, so we can't write the competitive process. We can't write it for them, but we do support them as much as possible. Our workshops have really been helpful to help show what we are needing. It's really spelled out. We do not fund new organizations. They have to be established for 2 years, so we're not seeing too many folks that they typically know what they're doing. In the past, we've had them work with other organizations to help sort of get them in, to help train them on some of this. But no, we try to make our application as easy to use as possible and work with them as we need to.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Chad?
Nothing additional this morning, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. Okay, with that, stand adjourned.